This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to The Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And Mark, we're continuing yet again our divisional previews in the NFL up until near the beginning of the 2015 season, and we're back home this week. We're in the NFC North, where you like to live because you're a Bears fan, and I love to live because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. Got my AP shirt on right now.
Yeah, it's a good place to be, and it's a good time to be in Chicago as well.
You think
Still
so?
basking from that Stanley Cup victory.
Oh, is that the only reason? Not because the Bears were 5-11, bottom of the cellar, and you actually got
That
some
season's
hope.
over.
You got some hope with John
Yeah.
Fox?
John Fox, Vic Fangio, Adam Gase, if you believe in him, past Peyton Manning. Look, it's probably one of the better coaching staffs, at least on paper, that we've ever had in Chicago.
And just a quick rundown. If you're forgetting what happened last season, Packers won the division, 12-4.
Surprise.
Lions made the playoffs at 11-5.
Actual surprise.
Vikings came in third, 7-9. Bears finished in the cellar at 5-11. And Mark, we're going to actually start with your hometown, Chicago. But well, we can say our hometown,
Yeah.
even though I'm a Vikings fan.
You live here.
Because we're in Chicago. The Bears, let's just go over free agency stuff coming in.
There's some good stuff to talk about.
They bring in some good free agents. You bring in McPhee, Acho, Royal, just to name a few. Yeah, you lose Lance Briggs, you lose DJ Williams, Josh Morgan. But
You're saying those like they're bad things.
you're not
right now.
with the Bears. If you're looking just with free agency,
We're missing the biggest one. Lost Chris Conti,
lost Chris Conti.
automatically 16-0.
And I mean, like you said, that with this new coaching staff, aka the Chicago Broncos,
In a way, yes.
can you get to the playoffs? Can you dethrone
The Chicago 40 Broncos.
Can you even dethrone the Green Bay Packers?
Well, that's a conversation that we're going to have.
That's
I'm
a
sure.
totally different podcast.
And the answer to that question is no. Nobody's dethroning Aaron Rodgers. There's a possibility that the Lions can play as good as the Packers. But nobody, I think, is taking Aaron Rodgers off of his throne just yet. Now, to talk about the Chicago Bears, I love a lot of things that are going on. Is this team an above 500 team? Probably not. But I love a lot of things that are going on. And to get McPhee, he's kind of... it's tough because this team defense is not anywhere near as good as the Ravens defense. So he doesn't have that benefit. And you have the question of, is he going to play as good outside of that amazing defense? I think he'll play fine. I think he'll do well, especially with Vic Fangio.
And I mean, in the past, how hyped have Bears fans gotten about bringing in defensive free agents like Lamar Houston,
like DJ Williams,
and
who's
then
no longer on the team.
and then they tear their ACL celebrating, or they get hurt,
Well,
or they
you
don't
know,
live up to expectations.
The thing about that getting injured after celebrating while your team is down, what was it, like 40 points at that point?
Yeah.
You got to celebrate the wins. You got to celebrate the little victories, that's for sure. And I think that was Houston's only victory as a Bear.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
And it may upset you, but I don't care. There is a good chance. I'm going to say 80% chance Bears start the season 0-3. You've got the Packers. You've got the Cardinals. You're at Seattle.
The only one...
The Cardinals.
Yeah, it's the Cardinals
Yeah,
are the only
you're-
one that the Chicago Bears have a shot at.
I'm sorry, Bears fans. You're not going to like to hear this. You're not going to beat the Packers opening day. I don't care that it's in Chicago. You're not going to beat Seattle in Seattle. You're not as good as what the Dallas Cowboys were when they did it.
The one thing I will say about about that Packers game, since it is in Chicago, the Bears have an opportunity to surprise and shock the Packers. I don't think it's enough to win, but I think it's enough to scare Packers fans.
You know what's the only good thing overall about the Bears schedule?
That they get to play a few not so good teams. Not too many, but a few.
No. Your Week 17 game isn't at Lambeau or against the Packers. It's against the Lions.
At home.
Yeah, so you're no longer have to deal like, oh, great, we got to play the Packers last game of the season. Like,
For sure.
usually that's how it is.
Yeah.
Bears, Packers, end the season. Except for, like, that one year where it was Packers-Vikings.
Yeah, it's interesting. The schedule's not good. I mean, none of these NFC North schedules are good. They're all tough schedules.
We got to play the same teams you do. And
Exactly.
I say we as a Vikings fan.
Yep. And it's tough. They really are. You do have I'm excited to see the John Fox versus the Broncos. That's going to be a fun one to see because he gets to play his old team. Same with guys. Of course, you do have straight up rivalries that are always there.
Vic also gets to play his old team,
yes.
the 49ers.
And that one, I think Vic Fangio is going to be sitting there going, whew, I dodged a bullet getting out of that team. That dumpster fire over there. But yeah, I mean, there's not too many for the Chicago Bears or really any of these teams. Well, I shouldn't say any. More of the Chicago Bears and the Vikings are in the same position, where when you had the Raiders game, you're going, okay, good, we got something.
I wouldn't say the exact,
and that's about it.
Player-wise, we're not in the same position. You're talking more schedule-wise. We're in the same position.
You had the Raiders and you got the 49ers, maybe the Redskins. Those are the only ones you're happy about.
Both the AFC and NFC West. We got to play the same divisional opponents that you do. And then the only thing that's different is just those supplemental games.
Yeah.
For example, I don't know our schedule exactly, but we may not play the Buccaneers where you guys play Lovey and the Buccaneers.
Which is going to be, that's a loss automatically because, I mean, when you got Chris Connie out there in the backfield, I don't know how any single pass will be completed.
Who wins that game? The Chicago 40 Broncos or the Tampa Bay Buccabears? Because that's basically what it is.
Like I'm saying, I mean, you got the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Connie out there. He's going to get at least 20 interceptions.
However, the one thing, and I am saying this kind of to poke the bear, no pun intended, when you say, I know you're talking about schedules, but when you said the Bears and the Vikings, same situation, one situation we are not the same in, Mark, is Vikings have a quarterback where we are high on. We're hoping for good things in the future. Bears still have a quarterback who many think is overpaid, and there are, I'm going to say, I'll give you 50-50 right down the middle that either want Jay Cutler run out of town still or still want to give him a chance.
Well, first of all, we need to talk about the fact that the man's 32 years old. So when we talk about one fan base being excited about their quarterback and one fan base not as excited.
I know.
We have that.
There's the age thing, but still.
We also have the fact that you can get as excited as you want about Teddy Bridgewater, but the man's only played one season. So
still a lot to go.
Let's calm ourselves down at the moment, Ricky. You know, I see
still hope.
You're busting out more purple
There's
right now.
There's still hope. Got to put on my hat.
It's an interesting situation. Like I said on previous podcasts, I am a Jay supporter. I'm a Jay fan.
Where I am not a Jay supporter. I am not a Jay fan.
Best quarterback the Bears have ever had. You can check the record books. That's a fact. It's not an opinion.
But how many rings does he have?
How many rings does Dan Marino have? Doesn't mean he's not the best quarterback that's ever played for the Miami Dolphins.
But you know what? Check
the record books. Not an opinion. It's a fact.
Here's the thing, and I think this is more so. Maybe it's because I live in Chicago with you.
Yeah.
And we basically have our fingers on the pulse of how a Chicago sports fan thinks. But if you're not winning in Chicago, fans don't like you. Let's put it that way. Unless you're the Cubs, because the Cubs are the lovable losers.
Yeah, the only franchise that can lose games and still be profitable. But the thing about Chicago, fortunately, they do have the Blackhawks to be happy about. So people are okay.
But think about it. How many people are... Think about the White Sox. You're a White Sox fan.
Oh, yeah.
How many people have come out and said they want Ventura fired already?
For
this bad
sure.
season.
I mean, they were saying that in week 2.
How many people wanted Thibodeau fired in basketball? Because
he got fired.
And he got fired, and he's gone, and that's why Hoiberg's in. Why was Mark Trestman run out of town?
Because he
wasn't winning games. Yeah, it wasn't winning games. Part of me just feels like eventually, when does this come to... I feel like this is the season, because if John Fox comes in and the Bears still can't win 8 games... The McCaskies might have to go, hey, maybe it's Jay. Maybe it's Jay.
The problem for them this season is unless John Fox or Adam Gase, whoever is really going to be making quarterback decisions, whichever one is really being that decision maker, do they like fails? Do they like the last
Or Jimmy
administrations. Jimmy Clausen's not too young either. I don't believe they're not going to believe in him. We can all admit that. Although Jimmy Clausen
I'm not saying,
and Jake Delhomme pretty comparable.
Well, I'm not saying that. Okay, there's a quarterback battle going into season 1. I'm saying when the season's over, give Jay the entire season if he doesn't get injured, because you always got to throw that out with Jay.
Yeah.
But if he gets an entire season and the Bears still don't make the playoffs, I would say not even get to 8-8. I think the question would have to be proposed, is Jay the guy? However, I will throw out this. If the Bears go, let's say, 6-10, 7-9, there will be guys that support Jay that say, oh, well, we lost games because you gave away his favorite target. You gave away Brandon Marshall. Well, that's why we lost.
Brandon Marshall is, it's definitely something that's there, but you're replacing Brandon Marshall with Kevin White, who's just a younger wide receiver about the same level.
But do you not see Bears fans saying like, oh, well, you gave away Brandon Marshall, that's why we lost. Well, don't blame Jay. Nothing's Jay's fault.
Well, any fan base has people blaming whoever they can possibly put a finger on. We do have to mention that, of course, Bears have picked up Shane Carden. If you haven't heard of him, no surprise, rookie quarterback out of East Carolina. He played football at one point in time, so maybe they got that. But I think just to make the Jay Cutler point, the guy's 32 years old. John Fox is sitting there going, this guy's not my future. Because
John
he
Fox
can't be there.
is one with an old man, though.
He has.
However, the old man is Peyton Manning, who arguably is the greatest quarterback ever to play the game.
Yeah, well, of course, save for Nick Foles, who is just as good. But I think the thing with what I'm trying to say with Jay Cutler is just that, and for the whole Bears situation with quarterback, it's not Jimmy Clausen. We know that. He can stick around and be a backup, but it's not going to be him. Do they believe in David Fales, or are they looking to the future? If they think David Fales is the guy, 90%, Jay Cutler's not going to start next season. Because if you believe in David Fales, the guy's been here for 2 seasons now. It's going to be his 3rd season. Let him start. I'm
not saying you got to get rid of Jay. I'm saying that the Bears are kind of in a catch. What is it? The phrase catch 22, where
a catch Matt Forte, if you will.
You kind of have to. You got to stick with Cutler because what else are you going to do
for this season? For sure.
Next season, what are you going to do? Like you can always depend on free agent quarterbacks, and you may get someone that works. But to me, none of the big names are going to be. You're not going to be like what the Broncos did, and you're not going to land a Peyton Manning again.
Yeah, there's no Peyton Manning to land.
There's no John Elway or Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers coming out of drafts that we see.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers surprised us. Well, surprised me at least.
Well, to be fair, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre, so he's not part of the equation.
And I feel like, and I used to be one of them when you say like, well, Aaron Rodgers learned from the best. No, Aaron Rodgers got to sit there
and watch
and get teased by the best.
But Aaron Rodgers he did not have good quarterback posture. He did not have good. People complain about Tim Tebow's big long dip, but Aaron Rodgers did not have a pretty throwing motion either coming out of college.
And he worked on it.
Exactly. He had like 3 years to work on it. Maybe Dave Fales had 3 years to work on this. I'm not saying Jay Cutler's going anywhere right now. I think he's staying right where he's at. I'm just saying that the quarterback situation, they're not going to find anybody in free agency. We agree on that. Are they going to go to the draft and try and get somebody next year? Because they got to go to the draft and get somebody at some point, because Jimmy Clausen's not the answer. Fales, I don't know what I think about him.
Well, that's a Trustman guy.
And Carden's not going to be on the 53-man roster.
I want to ask you a different Bears question that's a little bit more important than Jay, to get off the Jay train. This offseason, because his contract's up, does Matt Forte leave the Bears?
It's an interesting question.
He's a free agent in 2016. This is his last season under contract. Does he leave?
He thinks about leaving quite often, at least so it seems. He did hold out for his last contract. He's 29 years old. He's a running back, so that's not too promising. The Chicago Bears, of course, going and getting none other than Jaquiz Rodgers. So what else do you need?
They also drafted Jeremy Langsford.
Yeah, which is
Michigan State.
The actual thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they went and got Matt Forte's replacement, and I think they're going to be okay to let him go.
But do you think he walks away, or do the Bears actually try to pursue him?
I think the Bears will try, but I think it's going to be a situation where...
Or do you think John Fox and Adam Gase this season go, hey, we're going to use you correctly. And this season, he has a great season, he's happy, and he stays.
No, Matt Forte is... I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but my impression is that Matt Forte cares a lot about money.
And he's going to the highest bidder?
Yeah, he has held out before, and I think he'll do it again. He's going to try and get somewhere where he gets paid big bucks. He's older. I think that the Chicago Bears and Ryan Pace are not going to be afraid to say, all right, we'll see you later because we got your replacement already.
Yeah, they picked up Langsford. They picked up Jaquiz, if you want to think that he's the next guy, because the wide receivers are pretty much set. I mean,
they're pretty good.
You've got Kevin White and Alshon. Eddie Royal can be a good third guy, or even if you want it, like the Bears have an interesting situation with wideouts where Alshon's on the outside. Let's get that right. But with Royal and White, you can say, well, for some plays, we can put White on the outside, Royal in the slot, or switch them. Put White in the slot and Royal on the outside because they're versatile. To me, they're versatile and can play either or.
And, of course, Martellus Bennett out there is another big target.
Big target.
So, and for the passing game, it's fine. Everything is good. And you got
It's the defense that's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. You got to think about the switch to the 3-4 from the 4-3.
Do you think they're going to have any success with that?
You know, I think the Bears' defense is not going to be great, but I think they're going to be better than people expect. But to be fair, people are expecting a disaster. And they just came from being pretty much the worst or second worst defense in the league. So I don't think it's too bad. But they got some good names on the roster. People who aren't in really the best spot, or they're trying to figure out the spot for some of these guys. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be better than we expect, but it's going to be super average. It's going to be a very average defense that will sometimes play below average because they'll just get teams that are better than them. So yeah, I mean, it's not. That's the thing about the Chicago Bears team right now, and the whole franchise as a whole. Pretty average. Sometimes it's going to be pretty below average because you just have people that are going to be better than them.
Let's move on to the next team. We're going to go straight up the standings from last season. And also because you're the Bears fan, I'm the Vikings fan, let's just get our teams out of the way before we tackle the Lions.
Yeah, we want to get the best two out of the way, right, Ricky?
And then the defending champions and, division champions and the Packers. And I'm looking at the free agents, lost and gained for Minnesota. And I mean, yeah, we lose Jasper Brinkley. Yeah, we lose Greg Jennings. Felton leaves. Christian Ponder left. Oh, that was a heartbreaker for me.
I was hoping the Chicago Bears would pick him up.
It was hard for me. And then Corey Wooten left as well. But to me, there's no real, like, those guys that go, okay, we got Mike Wallace. So we kind of filled in Greg Jennings for Mike Wallace. We picked up Little Matthews and Casey Matthews, Terrence Newman. Just some, to me, these free agents are like backup guys where it's like, okay, fill in, see who can play the hardest. The draft is where we hit the big guys. We got linebacker and Kendricks from UCLA. We got Trey Waynes and a quarterback. We got Stefan Diggs, who I am so excited to see what he can blossom into. And the thing with the Vikings is with AP coming back, and hopefully he can produce for this team, he can have a positive influence on this team. What can we see improvement from the defense, which is Zimmer's? That's what he is. He's a defensive guy. And can we see improvement from Teddy Bridgewater now that he has the best running back in all football behind him? Because I am sorry, Philly fans. DeMarco is not the best running back. I'm sorry, Seattle fans. Marshawn Lynch is not the best running back. AP is the best running back in all football.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. That'll be really good. Adrian Peterson's going to do what he does. We assume.
We hope.
I mean, there's not much doubt, but there is a little uncertainty on just coming back right now. But I think he'll be A-okay. You can still draft him in the first round of whichever fantasy draft you're in.
I'd draft him number 1.
I don't know if I would do that. I'd be a little nervous, and Adrian Peterson's burned me in the past.
Unless you're playing keeper, and, you say burn you in the past last year.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Or you can keep him if you're in a keeper league.
There's no reason to keep Adrian Peterson. He's a little old for a running back.
Past his prime? Is that what you're saying?
Probably. But anyways, when it comes to wide receivers, this makes me nervous for you Vikings out there because you have Cordero Patterson. You got Mike Wallace, who underperformed in Miami. And that's about it. I mean, you got Kyle Rudolph. He's the kind of the guy that people...
I like Rudolph.
People pick him up in fantasy leagues just because they need somebody to fill that roster spot. But I mean, it's just... I unfortunately for Teddy Bridgewater, I think this is not going to be that great of a season for him because he just doesn't really have anywhere too better than average to go with the ball. So it's going to be all Adrian Peterson. And if people stop Adrian Peterson, which is incredibly hard to do.
Yeah, I don't think you're not going to stop him. You can only hope to contain him.
We assuming he's coming back to full strength and full ability, which he probably will. But I don't want to have any certainties on that.
I do think the biggest person that we have to focus on in this Viking team for like just coming back to, okay, you had a bad season last year, put it behind you, come out this year. It's not AP. It's not Teddy Bridgewater. It's Cordero Patterson, because we saw it with AP. His rookie season was a good season. Last year without AP, Patterson struggled.
Yep.
Couldn't find himself in the offense. Was not a good player.
He needs some help because there's no help.
He needs a run game because, I mean, he's the type of guy where I want to say he's not going to beat you down the field. He's the guy we use for reverses. You can screen to him. Mm-hmm. He'll make you miss. But you need that threat of a run game that McKinnon and Asiata just couldn't provide like AP can.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for the Vikings, too, as much as everybody is, of course, going to want to talk about Adrian Peterson because he is all-day Peterson, but this defense looks really impressive. I mean, you have guys like Xavier Rhodes, Barr, who need to I think they need to step up a little bit. I don't know, that might be stepping on your toes, but I don't think they did too much to be excited about. And when you get Trey Waynes in there, you want to see him perform to his full ability.
I'm telling you, this defense, I'm just looking at the depth chart right now, and what you said about the Bears coaching staff is how I feel about this Vikings defense. Because, I mean, Robinson, Floyd, Griffin, just the linebackers alone, Greenway, Kendricks, and Anthony Barr. Like, Barr had an injury. He could have been so much better if he didn't get injured last year. And then just the cornerbacks alone. Of course, we're bringing Harrison Smith back, but you got Newman, Waynes, the captain, and Captain Mutterland, and then Xavier Rhodes. I mean, so much, I'm going to say potential for this defense. And I mean, with me, this is a shocker because usually I'm the offensive guy. I've said in every podcast that whenever I think offensive minded, but this is what I'm focusing on for the Vikings because you've been adding defensive pieces for the past 2 years with Zimmer. What can the defensive coach do with it? Show me what you can do when you have to go up against Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. I'll even throw Jay in there. You have to be able to limit Jay. How are you going to stop those guys? It's with your cornerbacks. It's with getting one of the things I saw in an ESPN article is me and you right before we recorded this podcast was how do you stop the Packers? One of the guys said you got to get pressure on him without bringing anyone extra. Just bring who you're going to bring. Don't bring an extra guy. That's how you beat Aaron Rodgers. Of course, the Bears guy said, well, he gets injured. That's how you beat him.
That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, and as I said earlier in the podcast, Aaron Rodgers and his Packers are not going anywhere right now.
You think they stay at the top of the division?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Which, I do always say the Packers are not as good as people pretend they are. But they still do have one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league.
I'm going to get to something. I'm going to wait till we talk about the Packers, but I'm going to get to something I heard in it was one of those NFL Films documentary about the season that you like to forget when they beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think wasn't that the year they went through you to do that? Mark doesn't remember. Just like 2007, you don't remember that Super Bowl? Except for what Devin Hester did?
2006.
2006. I'm sorry.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
But let's move on. The Lions. Biggest loss, they lose Ndamukong Suh. They lose Reggie Bush. They lose Nick Fairley. Other like Kellen Davis, Hilliard to me, The biggest ones, Fairley and Ndamukong Suh. You lose your front line. You can throw Bush in there. Additions, really, they didn't add much. Yeah, Lance Moore. Yeah, Chris Owens. But other than that, it's kind of like, what did you gain in free agency? Nothing. What did you lose? Everything. And even with their draft, Amir Abdullah, I like him, but I still go to that first round pick. What were you thinking taking Tomlinson out of Duke? And to me, that's the reason I'm going to give a spoiler. Detroit finishes third or fourth in this division, doesn't make the playoffs.
I don't even want to get into Ricky's predictions because I know what Ricky's predictions are, and
I do have a feeling how my division breakdown's going to go.
They're a bit of a joke, if I do say so myself.
Are they Skip Bayless? Am I at least a step up from Skipper, from the Skip Bayless?
I don't know, man. Skip Bayless gets one right every now and then.
No, you know what I noticed about Skip, and this is a little off topic, but I will say this: whenever he talks about the NBA Finals, take who he says to win, but a game sooner. Last 2 years, he's picked the winner. He said like 7, ended in 6. Said 6, ended in 5. So if you want NBA Finals betting advice, take who Skip takes a game sooner.
Very interesting, for sure. For the Detroit Lions, though, I mean, yeah, that first round pick, I don't know. Do they have a plan?
You didn't lose anything. Like, Megatron's still there. Stafford's still there. Golden Tate is still there. Mm-hmm. However, you lost Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley, and you didn't replace them. You took an offensive guard in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there's not really... It's not like they were great. It's not like there was a can't-miss defensive tackle just sitting there or something like that, so you don't really have that. So it's not as bad as it could be, and you do really... I guess you're trying to go all in on, hey, our offense is what it is. This is what our team is. So we want Stafford on his feet. We want, people helping Abdullah or Bell pick up some yards. We want Tate and Johnson and Corey Fuller to be open. So maybe that's what they're going for. They're just going with that strength of this team.
Could have taken Malcolm Brown. Could have taken Eddie Goldman. I mean, you don't want them to take Goldman because that's who the Bears ended up with in the second round. But I would have taken either of those guys. Yeah. Over Tomlinson.
I mean, they're both good. I don't think Tomlinson's necessarily better, but it's not like, I guess it's not like you have one of these guys who are a can't miss. It's not like you're sitting there.
I'm even thinking trade up for Trey Wayne or Shane Ray.
Shane Ray?
I want to say Trey Waynes, but he's with the Vikings. Shane Ray was there for the pickings, could have traded with Denver, decided not to. Denver's like, screw it, we're just going to take Ray.
Yeah, I don't know if people were expecting Shane Ray to really go when he did, though. I don't know. If people were, at least at the time, people were surprised that Denver took him there. They thought he would fall even further.
Or just for a defensive I remember thinking that, okay, they're going to trade with the Broncos for this, and that didn't happen. I was like, well, who are they going to pick? And I feel like that move is going to bite them in the rear ends this season.
Unless Gabe Wright out of Auburn, taken in the fourth round, is the real deal.
Not this year. Maybe in a few years.
He's going to be the real deal. Year. I wonder about this, though. Is it going to be... I mean, obviously, the loss in Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley is a big deal. I wonder if it's not going to be as big of a deal as people expect, though. And I wonder also... I mean, the Lions knew he was going to go. They knew that for sure. I wonder if they're sitting there, Jim Caldwell's sitting there going, good. He's not on my team anymore. He's not my problem anymore.
And out of their first 5 games, I'm just going to throw this out there. Chargers, you got to get after Phillip Rivers. Vikings, yeah, Teddy Bridgewater may be young, but you gotta limit AP. And without Fairley and Sue, just run AP right up the box every time because no one's going to stop them now. Denver, got to get to Peyton. 3, the Seahawks. Oh, I cannot wait to see what Marshawn Lynch does to that just front inside of the Detroit Lions, and then they have the Cardinals. So I'll say it right now. The only team they may beat is the Vikings. They may be 1-4 to start the season.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know.
Because I think the Broncos, Seahawks, and Chargers beat them. Cardinals, I give the edge. Vikings, I'll give them a toss. Even though they're my Vikings, I'll give them a toss-up.
I do agree with the Vikings, of course. Vikings probably... I mean, that's not a sure thing for either one of these teams.
It depends on which Vikings team we see, which Lions team we see. Because I didn't think the Lions are going to do last year, and then they proved me wrong.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't think the Cardinals are a sure thing over the Detroit Lions. And I don't know if the Broncos are a sure thing either. Broncos got some changes going on with that team. Of course, they still have Peyton Manning. But Peyton Manning, once again, he's pretty old. So
of course, it's
going to fall apart.
They don't have Julius Thomas. He went to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I just think for my thing with the Broncos this season, and maybe I'm saying this too early, but it's got to fall apart at some point. And with the coaching staff changes, I don't see any reason why it can't be now. I mean, Peyton Manning not getting any older. Or actually, he is. He's not getting any younger. And I don't think he's Tom Brady, who's going to play till he's 60. So
he's not no spring chicken out there.
Yeah, so I don't know about Peyton Manning's Broncos.
Or is he going to be like Brett Favre, who retires for a few years and does the whole Michael Jordan thing? Yeah, I could still play. Yeah, I could still play in the NFL.
Hey, Michael Jordan, he's coming back. He's going to play for the Charlotte Hornets. It's going to happen.
That's why he drafted Frank the Tank, right?
Exactly.
But with the Lions, how far do you expect Stafford and Megatron to take you year in and year out?
To pretty much where they are. I mean, they're pretty much at the peak for this team of they either just miss the playoffs or they get into the playoffs and get knocked out fairly quick. They are a better team than they've been in past years. Of course, now we really have that big question of there's a circle right on that defensive line, and we're sitting there going, is Nada going to be able to make a difference? Or are people going right through him?
I'll be honest, I cannot wait. I feel like Joik Bell starts the season, but either this season or next season, I think Amir Abdullah takes the job from him.
He should. That's why I drafted him.
I cannot wait until Abdullah, because I like Abdullah. I'm a Big Ten guy. I got to see Abdullah torch my Fighting Illini a ton the past 2 seasons.
As you often watch people do.
And, well, yeah, it happens a lot. But, I mean, they have the offensive tools. They picked up an offensive lineman to, I guess, help that. I guess they're going in the mindset of, you know what? We'll just try to blow you out. We'll just try to score more points than you. Doesn't matter how many you score on us, as long as we score more than you.
And that's kind of been the NFC North of late. Let's just put up points. I mean, the Packers have been doing it forever. The Bears tried to do it. It didn't work out. The Lions have been doing it for a while, and it's been doing okay. And I think they shore up the line a little bit. They still have fullbacks on their roster. This is a team that carries fullbacks. So they are, and of course, we can't forget that, it's not like their tight ends are catch-only type of guys. These are guys who can block as well. So I think they are really saying we can get people open, and Stafford can beat people or throw them open if we give him time.
I'm going to throw out one name for you. And this is for the inside of that defensive line. How big is Haloti Ngata this season? Because they signed him to try to fill in that hole.
He's the compensatory pick here.
But is he really going to be enough? Is he going to be what Ndamukong Suh was?
No, he's not. And of course they have Corey Wooten too, who is no scrub.
Ex-Bear, right?
Yep, ex-Bear, ex-Viking, no scrub. So he's a decent guy.
But he's no Nick Fairley, no Ndamukong Suh.
No, neither one of these guys are. I mean, you can compare him to Nick Fairley without
but not Ndamukong. But he's going to be, because he's going to be the top dog in that inside pair.
And you know what's going to happen every time we watch Lions games, which unfortunately sometimes we got to do.
Everyone is going to bring up
They're going to talk about it every time, and then they're going to say, now which one of these guys is going to, or they'll be like, this rotation here, who's going to really do it? Who's going to make up for the loss? And it's just going to be kind of annoying. But I don't think it's going to really be as big of an issue as people think.
You know what stinks? That we're not playing the AFC East this year, so we will not see a Lions-Dolphins matchup unless it's the Super Bowl.
Not Nick Foles. I don't know why I said Nick Foles.
Tannehill.
Well, no.
Or Stafford?
I was thinking Nick Fairley is why I said Nick Foles. But I mean Ndamukong Suh.
Well, we will see a Fairley Lions matchup week 14 because Fairley went to the Rams.
But what I want to see is does Ndamukong Suh step on Matthew Stafford's face? Does he do it? Because he likes to step on people.
Only Packers. He only does that to Packers.
No, he stepped on some Bears before, too.
Did he?
Yeah.
I remember fondly the time he did it to the Packers.
He will step on whoever he can step on without getting suspended for too long.
Because he's a dirty player.
Yes.
Just throwing it out there. And let's get to the last team. The team that won the division last year. You got to hate them. The Green Bay Packers. They keep Cobb. They keep John Kuhn. I mean, they lose A.J. Hawk. They keep B.J. Raji. And this is a team, we mentioned it last week when we talked about the Steelers. This is the only other team to keep all 11 of its offensive starters from last season.
First of all, before we talk about...
And Tremont Williams went to the Browns.
Before we talk about these Green Bay Packers, we got to give a special shout out to a certain ESPN article that's up here. I don't really know if it's an article or if it's just a video because it has a little play button. Is Brett Favre serious about being able to play in the NFL? Why is this a topic? How old is Brett Favre?
It's on the Viking page.
He's like 42 years old.
It's on the Viking page too. That's why I brought it up, the Brett Favre thing.
He's a high school coach.
Like play it back 5 minutes ago. That's why I brought that up.
He's a high school coach.
Because I saw that.
How old is this man, Brett Favre? I'm going to Google it right now.
He's got to be like 48.
48 seems a little old. Let's see how 45. Brett Favre is 45 years old. It just had to be looked up. But actually, when you go to the Packers page, the first two things that pop up are Brett Favre. And then the third one's Brett Favre. And then you have Bill Belichick. And then Olivia Munn. Not even about the Packers.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out there about and this is the Aaron Rodgers quote that I've been holding on to until we talked about the Packers. I was watching that NFL Films doc on the season you like to forget, Mark, and I can't remember which player said it during the documentary, but he said, man, the one thing about Aaron Rodgers, and he's like, I don't know how to put it except for he's just got that swagger, like to where he knows he's good and he knows he's better than you. And he shows it. Like, that's how he walks around. Like, he knows that he's great and he knows, you know what? I'm better than you. And I'm just going to show it on the football field.
You know, I almost said Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers lives a pretty good life. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback. Dating Olivia Munn. Apparently, he owns a record label, too. Some small record label, but, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, not everyone can be Jay-Z.
Yeah, I mean, he's got, like, all these awesome things in his life. Like, it's unfortunate as a Chicago Bears fan, besides the fact that he comes across as kind of, I don't want to say a douchebag, but he kind of comes across as arrogant. And I think that's going to that quote as well. The guy who, like, he knows he's that's
got
how
that
it is.
swagger.
He knows he's awesome and he knows he's cooler than you, and it's upsetting to you.
Yeah.
But he's just so cool.
Yeah. But you want to be him.
But you hate him.
You want to be him, though, but you hate him. Yeah, I get it.
It's like you hate the guy, but you just want to be him.
I want what you have. I want the belt, like that celebration.
Yeah. Although
like,
I will say, going back to some year, which I can't remember, it might be 2006. I sat there and I thought, and it was a heartbreaking thought in my head of we might watch the Packers win multiple Super Bowls, and I solely believed Aaron Rodgers gonna win multiple. He's gonna not even that he's gonna win multiple as in 2. I'm thinking this guy's gonna win 3, maybe 4. This guy is that good. And this team was pretty damn good at that time. But as it's going on...
Just wait. Once Russell Wilson, I almost said Westbrook, Russell Wilson
if he
leaves
stays,
the Seahawks...
Okay, there we go.
Once he leaves the Seahawks, that'll just close the gate on everyone else. Because really, that's the only team that in recent... Except for Kaepernick that one season, Kaepernick and Wilson were the only two to have shut the door on Rodgers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but I mean, it's unfortunate, but I do think I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers as bad as I can feel for a Packer.
Because you hate him because you're a Bears fan.
Exactly, but his team just isn't that good. And I know there's Packer fans who are really upset right now, but this team, besides take Aaron Rodgers off this team and put some scrub. Actually, you know what? Just go for your backup, who's not Matt Flynn.
What about Matt Flynn? Yeah, I was gonna say
He's
about
not
Matty?
on the team. You can put Matt Blanchard in there. He's a good quarterback, I know, because he was on the Bears. You can put him in there, and you're not going to be winning very many games. You know, if you got the backup in there, you're not winning very many games. And that's the thing about this team. And as much as it pains me to say, kind of upsets me for Aaron Rodgers because he is a better quarterback than this team is. Now I imagine this. I'm going to play fantasy, or I'm going to play Madden fantasy team right now.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't need to switch much. I'm just going to trade Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. The next 10 years are set. You know, I mean, that's pretty much what happens. Like, next 4 seasons, you don't have to watch them because you know that the Aaron Rodgers Seahawks are just going to win every year.
Since 2012, the only 2 teams to beat the Packers in the playoffs, Niners and Seahawks. Only 2. And I mean, ever since they won that Super Bowl, and it was 2010, 2010, only 3 teams. Add the Giants one season.
And I said we've been going off the 2006 thing because that's when the Chicago Bears, that's the season I like to forget when we lost the Super Bowl. But yeah, 2010. Now, I say that the thing about the Packers, though, yes, they only get those few teams that can beat them. But what those 2 things have done, those have just been better teams. I mean, the 49ers team that went to an NFC Championship game, a Super Bowl, and an NFC Championship game was an incredibly talented team, only beaten by the dynasty that is the Seattle Seahawks.
And the Packers lost to that same dynasty in 14.
Yeah, and there's been a while where, actually, that's pretty much the kryptonite. The 49ers have been the kryptonite to the Packers. But yeah, it's just, you see a situation like that, and you're like, yes, the Packers are an incredible team, and Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback out here. But you get in those situations and you see teams that are built better, and they beat the Packers. There's not very many teams that are as good as the Seahawks are, or the 49ers were.
The good thing for the Packers this season, 49ers probably aren't going to make the playoffs.
No, they fell apart.
So, I mean, you can get to the playoffs. You just got to get through Seattle because I'm going to say it now. I know we're going to get that whole division is going to be our last preview. With that division, the Seahawks are winning it. Maybe the Cardinals may give them a run for their money, but probably not. So
I will say it,
you're
Cardinals
probably going to have to see Seattle in the playoffs again, maybe, even if you get to the conference championship.
So, let's play this game.
Aaron Rodgers just has to defeat his demon to get another Super Bowl.
Aaron Rodgers needs a better team to get past the Seattle Seahawks.
He needs a
does.
defense.
For sure. But let's play the game. How many teams in the NFL can beat, when it comes down to it, how many teams are going to be able to beat the Packers? We already got the Seahawks on the board.
Patriots
is a good one, too. Besides
Seahawks,
that,
I'd put, just going down divisions. Patriots, Colts.
I don't know if I put the Colts over the Packers.
Seahawks. Those 3. Those are my 3.
Now, I will say, I'm going to put the Cardinals in there, too. Only
Maybe
for the
an
reason,
honorable mention.
if Carson Palmer plays healthy, or if they just had a quarterback that actually is there.
And I wanted to say Denver, but I didn't because of what they lost. And the only other teams I was thinking about, Dallas, I don't know if did they lose DeMarco. I don't know if they can beat the Packers. Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh lost to them in that Super Bowl. That's I don't know. I think that I wanted to throw Pittsburgh in there.
No, not these Steelers. I don't think.
Green Bay is to Pittsburgh what the 49ers have been to the Packers of recently, because that was the last time the Steelers got to the Super Bowl. The Packers shut them down.
Yeah, so, I mean, what this game proves, there's not that many teams out there that are going to beat Aaron Rodgers.
No.
And there's not that many defenses that can stop Aaron Rodgers. There's probably 3. And because I say that because we put the Patriots in there as a team that can beat the Packers because Tom Brady is a little bit better than Aaron Rodgers.
Tom Brady, and then all Tom Brady needs is that one play of luck to happen somewhere.
Yeah.
The Edelman play, the Malcolm Butler play.
So it's just, as you say, I mean, it's sad for both Ricky and I who are fans of the division to watch the Packers just continuously dominate the division.
Us living even though I'm a Vikings fan, living in Chicago, I mean, we have our own rivalry with the Packers, but living in Chicago, I've always just been bred to kind of hanging out with the friends that I do. It's just, you just hate the Packers. It's what you do.
Exactly.
You just hate them. That's what you. Green and yellow are the worst colors in the world.
Exactly. And it's,
unless it's Viking purple and yellow or purple and gold.
And Packer fans know it. They know it's a compliment that we hate them this much because
they
they're
love
that
it.
good.
They thrive on it because they beat you.
Yeah, I think
in recent years.
I think the thing about the Packers, they continue to dominate the regular season and they do really well in the playoffs. You just got Aaron Rodgers, though. That's pretty much all you have.
That's all you need sometimes.
Sometimes that is all you need. That's all you need. It's very similar to Peyton Manning and the Colts. It's all you need in the regular season. That's all you need to get far into the playoffs. But your team is not good enough to go to Super Bowls and win. The team that they had in 2010 was a good team.
I'm going to say this.
That's why they won a Super Bowl.
I'm going to say this. They also had a similar thing with Brett Favre. All you had was Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they went to 2 Super Bowls with Brett back-to-back years. They won one against the Patriots, lost against Elway.
Exactly. It's good. There's no joke.
And Brett Favre, one of the greatest you mentioned Marino earlier, one of the greatest quarterbacks, never won a Super Bowl. Brett Favre, one of the greatest record book holder, only won 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. There's no jokes to be made. We're not making fun of somebody winning 1 Super Bowl. Winning 1 Super Bowl is better than pretty much everybody else.
Dan Marino would probably sell, like Little Nicky, would sell his soul for a Super Bowl win.
Exactly. Like it's an amazing accomplishment. We're not taking anything away. It's interesting how such a talented quarterback and the team around him currently is not good enough.
It just shows how much football is a team sport.
It is.
Like,
it really is.
Look at the Denver Broncos. The fans relied on Peyton Manning. He's the guy. He's going to win us the Super Bowl. And in the end, the team of Seattle beat them.
Exactly.
The team beat them.
And you also have Mike McCarthy out there, who's not. He makes questionable coaching decisions.
He's kind of what the Mad Hatter at LSU, Les Miles.
Yeah, he definitely makes it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers makes him look really good, and Aaron Rodgers makes things work out for him.
Probably why he still has a job.
Probably because he makes some really bad decisions sometimes. Bad clock management, never knows when to challenge the right play. Always challenges the wrong one
To
somehow.
be honest, in Madden, I never challenged the right play. But to be honest,
that's Madden.
Madden, usually it's like, hey, I can challenge that. No, you can't. It's like, don't tell me what I can and can't challenge. I know I can challenge that. But the game says, nope, you can't challenge that. It's like, fuck you, game.
Calm down, Rick. Calm down.
It just.
He's getting heated.
Got on my soapbox. I'm off my soapbox. But last thing we're going to do for this podcast, because we are getting a little long for this one, and we usually do for the NFC North. But what's your division? Who's winning it? Who are your playoff teams?
Okay, we're gonna have. I'm not gonna give records because we're not there yet. It's not worth doing.
No, just tell who's gonna win playoffs.
Yes,
and just write down 1, 2, 3, 4.
Green Bay. Obviously, they're winning the division.
We'll just do together. Yeah, division winner for both of us.
And then we have. This is where it gets different. Detroit's still gonna be the next team up.
No, they're not. No, they're not. I'll get to that.
I know what you're doing, Rick. I know what you're doing. Then we have none other than probably the Minnesota Vikings. Probably 1 game less than last year. Even though Adrian Peterson is there, the schedule's a lot harder this year.
Okay.
Then we have the Chicago Bears, probably right where they were last year, if not 1 game less. I see nothing changing except for probably each one of these teams loses 1 more game.
I am going to put this out there. Here, I'm going to go right down the list. Packers, Vikings, Bears, Lions. However, 2 through 4 are all going to be within like a game or 2 of each other. They're going to be really close because, like you said, the division's tough. Vikings make the playoffs as the 6th seed barely make the playoffs.
So you're putting the Bears at least 500.
Yeah, I would say 8-8 for the Bears.
That's interesting.
At least, that's a dream season though, and I think that the Lions, I can see them taking a 3-game step back just because of losing Ndamukong Suh and Fairley. And some people may say I'm stupid and may say more of a negative, but they together 3 games. I could see you losing 3 more games without them on the field. And then
it's going to be interesting.
That would put them at 8-8. I think the Vikings have the talent to just squeak into the playoffs past the Bears and the Lions. But this is where we turn the question on you. What do you think about the NFC North? What didn't we talk about with your favorite teams? What would you wish we talked about? Who are your divisional prediction standings for the NFC North heading into the 2015 season? I want to thank everyone for listening to this edition of the Onside Kick. If you like the podcast, go ahead and hit that like button. If you loved it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. As always, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod for more great podcasts.